have him talk a little bit.
Okay. Chase, what motor is this?
Uh, it's a 6-cylinder.
Yes. What does that mean?
There's 6 pistons.
Yep.
Each one is at each two. There's
This is just going to be a fun blooper reel.
Yeah.
We're already trying to get more technical. Basically, this is a fun, informational video on how to assemble pretty much any 4-stroke internal combustion engine. And this is geared toward showing the kids at home what they can do in the spare time instead of playing the video games or being on their phones. So we pulled this apart.
Yeah.
Don't have a video of that. Sent it to the machine shop. It got bored out 30 over. Top of the piston says 030. That's 30 thousandths over bore. And we're going to show you the process on how we put a piston in a hole. We did the other 5 off camera. It's very important. We don't miss steps. We don't want to get sidetracked. So we're only doing 1 hole to show you guys the process, not all 6. So the first thing we do, put the oil ring on. And it's very important to stagger where the split is in the ring. They also call that ring gap. So I'm putting that one there, the oil ring, and these are retaining rings for the oil ring, and I'm going to put those 180 degrees apart, and they can't overlap. They got a butt. So that doesn't overlap. It butted. Looks like that one wanted to go on the top. And so we've got our first, you can see our first split is rolled around, rolled around, rolled around. I passed it. We should have already gone. There's our retaining ring split right there. Wow, really? Oh, it's right there. They're too close together. That's why I was messed up. Okay, so we're going to pull that retaining ring back off there because it's too close together. We want them as close to 180 out as possible. We're gonna start over with installing this. Okay, we're gonna have to edit some of that out. So the split is where the pin is. We did the rest of them. Okay, this dot right here goes towards the front of the motor. On all the rest of them, we put the split in the oil ring right next to the dot. Put the retaining ring for the oil ring on one side. I'm talking the split of it on one side. So we got the oil ring split there, got the oil retaining ring split on that side, and we're going to throw this one on the other side. So none of the ring gaps are in the same spot of the piston. Now it's important because it could wear a groove, and if it wears a groove, it could start burning oil. Now we're just going to show you guys something here. That's going to slide down in there, and it's going to hold pretty centered in that bore. We're going to need to do that because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure for ring gap. So we assembled the oil ring on there to give us something that we could square the rings in the bore. So square just means it's going to be the same height down Now, if you come look, that little gap right there, we need to measure that gap and see how wide that gap is. If it's too tight, it can touch each other. That means touch each other, and then it could pull the top of the piston off. So that's 22 thousandths. 22 to 24. That is at the top end of our go no go. So if it was any more than that, I would be concerned, but it's not going to butt, and it's within spec. And typically, if you have any questions on what the spec is, you can Google the spec on whatever it is you're working on. Now, that's the second ring. This is the top ring. We have 2 of those to do. We got to check the gap on this ring too. We're just going to go straight for that 22, 24. And that one is, if you look, there's a step here in the feeler gauge. So this part of it's 22 thousandths, this part of it's 24. The second ring went through at the 24. The top ring went in at the 22. Those are both within spec. We're good. So now, the ring has a dot, and you got to see the manufacturer's guidelines on dot on top. Most of them are dot on top. Also has a chamfer. If you look at the end of the ring, it's not square. It's got a bevel on the inside of it. So all those can be indicators on, hold the piston for me, boss. All those can be indicators on which ring it is, where it goes. So we're going to use a piston ring expander, and we're going to push that on down to the second ring here. There we go. Second ring on the rest of them we put towards the back. The top ring we put towards the front. There is no dot or chamfer or bevel on the top ring on this set of Hastings rings. They're just a black iron ring. So again, the gap matters. Where the ring gap's at. We're just going 180 apart, front to back, on this one. Now, the crank journal's clean. The rings are set where they're supposed to be. We're just going to get a little bit of clean oil here. Any oil will work as long as it is not synthetic. Synthetic motors need to break in, and they need to wear in, I should say, not necessarily break in. We're going to oil our rings up there. We're going to get our, hold that, bud, and we're going to put our piston spring compressor on here, making sure our rings are where we want them to be. The gaps are where they want them to be. We're going to lock this down. I'm going to turn it over, and we'll put the bearing in it. We've already checked to make sure that the cap and the rod are good. I'm just going to wash a little bit of that oil off. I'm going to make sure that our bearing's nice and clean. There's no shop debris, no burrs, no nothing in there, so it's all nice and clean. There's a tang there. There's a little tang right there. Tang goes in the tang just like that. The cap, rod cap, same way. Make sure it's good and clean, no shop debris. The tang and the tang go together, just like that. And then we're going to go back to our clean oil one more time. And we're just going to lay a nice thin coat. We already oiled the rings. Get all that on there good. Got our threads lubricated up. Got the bearing, got a coat on the bearing. Gonna get just a little more clean oil here and put it on the cap. We're gonna set the cap off to the side. Now, we're gonna turn that over. Make sure our dot goes to the front. Now, I'm gonna put my fingers down here and catch the rod bolts as Chase taps that piston down in the hole. Okay. Keep going. Slow down. Okay, I got it. Now go ahead and put it on in. Did we hear it change noise yet? I felt it, but did we hear it? There you go. As you're tapping that down, as it starts to seat against the rod bearing against the crank, you can hear it change tone to let you know that it's all the way down. So now that we've got it turned over, notice that tang and that tang. The tangs go on top of one another. So no tang on this side at all, both tangs on this side. And as far as the nuts, there's a wear pattern to them. See how that side's dark and that side's light? Well, that's where it was put together the last time. We're going to put it exactly back together, matching the wear pattern up with the wear pattern again. It does matter. Chase is going to snug that up with the speed wrench. Tighten them evenly. I'm just going to check them here. Good job. If you got new rod bolts and new nuts, they wouldn't have that wear pattern on there. This is stock rod bolts. We didn't recondition the rods. It was a standard motor, meaning the bearing tolerances were so good that they just went back together. Sometimes when they wear out, they got to get machined. And then they get machined, they get a different bearing put in it. Just like the pistons got bored 30 over, the rods and mains might be 10 thousandths under, 20 thousandths under, thousandths of an inch. We could do a video on that too. We could do measuring. That'd be a good one to teach the kids, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that is the installation of a piston and rod. The only thing we haven't done is torque these. And we will set that up off camera and we'll get back to torquing. Okay, so torque wrench set at 45 foot-pounds. You don't want to jerk, you just want to pull. And it's going to make that noise. That means you're done. And that is how to torque a rod bolt.